Hey there, Steve here from the left perspective. I'm a white-skinned, short red and brown-haired human with black round-rimmed glasses, black Bluetooth headphones, wearing a maroon ribbed jumper, trying to keep myself safe from the rain pouring down from above underneath the canopy of this blue umbrella, wandering along a stretch of coastline on unceded Dharawal Lands with that gorgeous view. Bringing you Mental Health Month Musings 23 Phase Pocket Notes on Person-Centered Care. So, just enjoying my final few hours from a brief sojourn in Wollongong before heading back to the unceded lands on which I currently live. And thought while I was enjoying this and trying to stay dry that I might play updates on this little project. So I want to talk today about another key learning of Carl Rogers that he discusses in the introduction of On Becoming a Person, which says that he found it most valuable when he could learn to listen acceptably to himself and others. And it's a really timely lesson, I think, in this current post-pandemic epoch as mental health service providers that we need to keep coming back to. He talks about how if he's angry, it's really quite silly to pretend that he's not. If he's working with someone and it's bringing up feelings for him, to deny those feelings and keep pushing forward actually creates more damage. And that allows him to monitor himself and allowed him to monitor himself and how he then chose to interact with the people that he was there in service for and to and with. Now, that's a very interesting consideration when you go back and review today's consumer client scenario, because it's about a consumer that is currently under an involuntary order in a mental health unit that has very little control or say over the treating team's approach. But it raises for me a consideration that I am always mindful of and deeply respectful of, as both someone who has been the recipient of services and provides services in the mental health sphere, is that of vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma for those who are in the professional caring space is massive, particularly when you consider the legal frameworks with which, or what we call the medico-legal frameworks within which we operate. But it also begs a massive question. If we have to completely disconnect with how we're feeling in order to show up to work, to provide a service, what is that saying for the quality of our service? Now, that doesn't matter if you're a peer worker or a psychiatrist or a clinical nurse consultant or anyone in frontline services. And that's in these economic times, I'm not going to lie, that's a hard reality to wrestle with. But if we're serious about providing person-centered services, how do we shift the narrative? Because it's not as simple as saying, well, I'm just going to work for another hospital department, or I'm just going to change careers. Many do, but the economic impact of that is massive. And while it is a longer, wider, and much harder work, what's holding up the framework in which we have to show up to work and disconnect from our emotional realities in order to do a job that is supposed to be about person-centered professional caregiving. It's a much longer work. It's a much harder work. It requires much more commitment to social and legislative change. But is it possible? Is it necessary? Of the choices in front of us, which choices are harmful and which choices are helpful? Very heavy one for this very heavy weathered Sunday afternoon. But I'm going to now invite you to go back to that scenario and have a think about that clinician-consumer interaction. So, I need you to take your meds. I don't want to take them. Why not? Because I don't like what they're doing to me. Be that as it may, you're in here under an involuntary order, so you have to take them. No, I have rights. Not under the Mental Health Act. When you're admitted as an involuntary patient, you don't. But I don't want to take them. Okay, so you know, though, that if you resist, we can actually just give it to you via an injection. I don't want that. So maybe you should take your meds. But I don't want to take them. Yeah, this isn't up for discussion. Hey, Joe, can you come over here and give us a hand? And see. Short and sweet. If you were the clinician in this scenario and you were forming this scene, at what point would you jump in? And what would you do to shift that narrative? And we'll catch you on the flip side.